What's going on, y'all? Welcome back. It's Ars. Let's get productive. So today we're going to talk about something really cool, really unique, and really different that is absolutely going to help you with your mixes and getting some new characteristics and interesting flavors out of the transients of your audio signal. This new plugin comes from Waves Factory, and I love Waves Factory because they also supplied me with the Track Spacer plugin, and I use that plugin on everything. They seem to keep coming up with really unique plugins that just make the workflow so much easier. And this new plugin is no different. It's called Quantum. What it does is it takes your audio signal and it separates the transients of your audio signal into two separate tracks, an attack track and a sustain track. And you can apply effects to each of those tracks separately, all within one audio signal. So it's basically taking that audio signal and taking the beginning attack portions of that audio signal and the tail end of that audio signal and separating them into two different signals and allowing you to apply effects to each of those signals separately. Just crazy. You're gonna see in a second, but just crazy. This thing is crazy, and I'm really excited about it. I think it's awesome. So we're gonna check this thing out. We're not gonna waste any more time. Waves Factory, Quantum. Let's jump right into this thing and see what it's all about. So right now I have Logic queued up, and this is Quantum. So the first thing we're gonna do is talk about this UI, and it's a very clean UI. Waves Factory always makes very clean looking plugins. I love the dark theme. I like the way it's set up, very minimal. You have the glow when you're moving the knobs around, and you have the orange glow here for attack and the blue glow here for sustain. You have your wave signal right here on the top. Now, like I said, the objective of this plugin is to take your audio signal and focus on the transients and take those transients and chop them up into two different signals that you can add effects to separately, all a part of one audio signal. So it's gonna focus on your attack signal and your sustain signal, and it's gonna separate them. So as you can see up here in the waveform display, you have your attack signal, which is represented by the orange waves here, and then you have your sustain signal, which is represented by the blue waves here. These gray lines here represent transient detection. Over here on the left side, you have your attack volume and you have your sustain volume. You have a solo button here and a solo button here on the sustain side, so you can solo your attack. So if you just want to hear what's happening as far as the attack is concerned, you hit the solo button and you can make your adjustments there. If you just want to hear what's happening as far as the sustain is concerned, you hit the solo button and you can get that going. You have your sensitivity knob here, mode, decay, hold, and beats. Now, beats shown just gives you the option between how many different waveforms you want shown in your window here. So you can do anything from 8 times to 16 times, and you'll just get more waves happening there, or you can just keep it simple and have 1 time. It's just pretty much how detailed you want the display in the wave section to be. So you can keep it on 2, and that's proper. Over here, this knob that says hold is going to allow you to adjust the minimum amount of time detected between each transient. So it just helps the transients to not blend too quickly and allows you to have a little bit more control over what's taking place at what times. You can use that in conjunction with the sensitivity knob. The sensitivity knob here is pretty much what it sounds like. It's just how sensitive this plugin is going to be to those initial transients. It goes everywhere from negative 100% to 100%. You have your mode knob here, and you can switch between drums, general, and soft. And that just deals with the crossfade between your sustain parts and your attack parts. Right here you have decay, and that helps you adjust the detection time between each of the transient signals. So you can really get in there and tweak this thing and get your transient signals adjusted the way you want. But like I said, the thing that this thing does well, the thing that makes it really cool is the fact that you can apply different effects to each of the transient signals. So over here on the left side, you see this plus box right here. If you click on it, it's going to give you a bunch of effects. You have chorus, compression, delays, enhancers, EQs. You have phasers, reverb, saturation, stereo tools, vibrato, lo-fi, limiters. You have all of these different effects that typically you would add to one audio signal and it would affect the whole audio signal. But with this plugin, On the left side here, I can add any one of these effects to just take effect on the initial attack of the transient. And then on the right side, I can have a different set of effects taking effect on the sustained portions of the transients, and I can raise or lower the volume of either one of those things. To give you an example of how this thing works, I chose to use a drum loop that I have on one of my beats. And I think this thing works really cool with drum loops. The reason I say that is sometimes you get a drum loop and the drum loop is really cool and you like it by itself, but when you try to implement it into one of your beats, there's a bit too much going on in the loop. Maybe the hi-hats are doing too much. Just the rhythm of it is just the way it was mixed. It's a little too chaotic. There's a lot going on in the drum loop, but because it's one solid wave file, you can't really do anything with it. You have to just kind of use the drum loop the way it is. What this thing allows you to do is to make subtle adjustments to the sustain portions of the drum loop or the attack portion of the drum loop and maybe turn some of that stuff down. So I'm gonna just give you an example. I'm gonna just use this plugin and just stay with me, follow me, and you're gonna see what's happening here. I'm gonna try to talk you through it. So this is the drum loop that we're using. And you can see the wave signal moving right here. You see the orange and the blue, which represents the attack and the sustained signal. Now, if you listen to the background of the drum loop, you'll hear some open hats, you'll hear some hi-hats, you hear some percussion happening. Now, if I really just wanted the kick and the snare of this drum loop to stand out, I could very simply just go over to the sustain section and just turn the volume down a little bit. And that's going to allow the plugin to focus on the attack a bit more than the sustain. You can boost the volume of the attack if you want. So I'm going to hit solo here. And now the plugin is just focusing on the attack portions. I'm going to make some adjustments to that. You can pretty much adjust how much of the signal you want to count as the attack. So, you know, you can go everywhere from a really short attack signal, like that, or... And where I have it right now is pretty much the main parts of the kick and the main parts of the snare that I want to really stand out. Turn it to general. So the crossfade is a bit smoother. And I'm raise the volume on the kick and the snare a little bit. Now, for the attack section, I can go over here to effects. And if I wanted to, I could add, let's see, I could add a compressor. Okay, and now I have the compressor turned on. You see right here in this box down here in the center, I have all of the different settings for the compressor. I can just adjust the threshold a little bit. Lower the mix knob a bit so it's not too harsh. Right? Then I can go over here to sustain and solo that. This is what's happening with the sustain transients. I'm gonna just turn it up so I can hear what's happening. And I could add a delay effect to the sustain part. And then turn the sustain down a little bit. And now that I have those two effects added, the delay is added to the sustain and the compressor is added to the attack, I can just use the volume knobs here and just adjust the levels of the sustain and the attack and get things sounding how I want it to sound. So now the delay gave the sustain portion a little bit more rhythm with that whole stutter delayed effect, but I turned the volume a bit lower than the attack. That way the kick and the snare stands out more. So you have a compressed kick and a snare that's a little bit more punchy, and you have the delayed sustain portions happening. Now if I wanted to, I could turn the sustain up. So this is the drums without quantum on it. And this is the drums with quantum on it. And like I said, I can turn the sustain down so the kick and the snare stands out more. And now I'm gonna let you hear why this thing works really well on drums and why it's really cool when it comes to mixing, because it allows you to take any kind of drum loop and mix it perfectly with the sound of your track, with whatever kind of track you're creating. So I'm gonna just play the melody here. Now, if I wanted the drums to be really aggressive and rambunctious, I could just turn the sustain up. But if I really wanted the percussion and the hi-hats and all of those background elements to be a little bit lower and tucked behind the kick and the snare, I can just turn the sustain down and let the kick and the snare shine. And that's dope, because now you can take a drum loop and say you like the rhythm of the kick and the snare and some of the percussions, but you just don't like how loud the percussions is in that loop. You can turn that down and maybe add your own percussion and your own hi-hats on top of it. You can almost completely get rid of it if you listen here. Bring it back in slowly. Nice. So again, this is the kick, this is the drum loop without quantum. And this is the drum loop with quantum. And you can get really creative with it. You can add more effects. So for the attack portion, you could even add a delay to the attack portion. Yeah. And on the sustain portion, you can add, let's see, we can add an EQ to the sustain portion. So let's just listen to that soloed. We're gonna just listen to that soloed real quick so we can hear what's happening. And you could take all the bass out of the sustain portion if you wanted to. And it's almost like a whole new drum loop. Add a pitch shifter here. You get a bit of a flanging effect happening because I'm changing the pitch. And it's like I have a whole new drum. This is the drum without quantum. And this is the drum with quantum. And then you can play it with the music. It has a whole new attitude. It's so cool to be able to separate those transients and add effects to it and EQ it in a completely different way. You can EQ the attack and sustain transients completely differently, and it's all a part of the same audio signal. It's just really cool what you can do with this thing. I've been super impressed with how I've been able to take the same loop or the same sound and just change the transients of it and make it sound completely different. This thing is definitely something creative, unique, and I think it's going to make a lot of changes for the possibilities of what you can do with loops. I mean, for me, that's really where this thing shines, is when it comes to, your loops, things like drum loops and stuff like that. I mean, you can use it on anything. You can use it on instruments, all of that kind of stuff. But to be able to take someone's loops, their samples, and all of that stuff, and separate the attack transient and the sustain transient and add different effects and EQ those two transients completely differently, it changes the possibilities of what you can do with loops. So for all you people out there that are using Splice or any other subscription-based service where you can like download samples and loops, this is going to help you really create some interesting things. And yeah, that's basically it. It's a really simple plugin, but it does a lot. It helps you really achieve a different set of characteristics in your loops and in your drums. And like I said, it's not just dedicated to loops. You can use it on different instruments. But it's just really cool what it allows you to do. Let's just use it on this let's use it on this sample I created right here, just so you can hear the differences here. So we're going to play the attack portions of this loop. And we're going to play the sustain parts separated. Beautiful. Now let's say for the sustain section, I just wanted to EQ that a little bit differently. Take some of the highs out and make it a little more lo-fi. And then maybe go over here to lo-fi, add some. Saturation here. Come over here and add some flanging. Beautiful. And everything I'm doing here is just affecting the sustain. It's not affecting that initial attack. Then we can come back over to the attack part here. Add some delay. Add some verb. All right, and now I'll play it. So this is the loop without quantum on it. And this is the loop with quantum on it. And now I'll play with the drums. And if I I wanted to make room for another instrument but still have certain elements of that original sample tucked in the background, I can just turn the sustain down and have other instruments playing on top of it. So I'm still keeping the atmosphere of the original loop, but I'm turning the sustain down so it's not competing with the other instruments that I've added on top of it. So there may be a certain section of your song where you want you want the presence of the sample to still be there, but you want to add more instruments on top of it. And so in that portion of the song, you may be able to add something like quantum and just turn the sustain down a little and turn the attack up. This thing is a beast on transients, and it's definitely something that I think you guys should check out. So shout out to Waves Factory for making such a dope plugin. You continue to push the envelope in terms of what can be done in the plugin market. I love this thing, and I definitely think anybody watching this right now should run over there and check this thing out because it's a beast. Please leave a comment down below. Let me know if this is something that you're interested in and you would add to your workflow. And let me know if there's any other plugins that you think I should review on this channel that I haven't yet checked out. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you can stay notified anytime I drop a new video. And I'll catch you guys on the next one.